So you want to quit your job and you don't want to burn any bridges along the way. A lot of us feel like when we quit a job that we want to just tell off everybody that ever made us angry in our roles. And while it is tempting to do that, it's not usually the best thing when it comes to a professional reputation. And there's a lot of reasons why you might be quitting your job. Maybe it's for a better career opportunity. Maybe you had unfulfilled expectations at your current company. Maybe you had disagreements with your supervisor or colleagues, or maybe you just needed a new challenge altogether. But no matter the reason for why you might leave an organization, you want to make sure that you leave that organization with a sense of dignity in yourself, but also that you're not completely burning every single bridge that you had when you first started at that company. So here are 5 tips to help you quit professionally and move on to your next job. The first thing that you want to do is be emotionally neutral. Now, this is very difficult, especially if you have an emotionally charged experience. Like I've had personally a couple companies that I've worked at where I absolutely hated the people that I worked with and I really didn't like the supervisor. And it's very difficult to remain emotionally neutral when you're trying to basically just say, hey, I'm done, don't talk to me ever again. But you want to make sure that you're approaching this as a business transaction. Think of you giving your notice or think of you leaving a company as basically just saying the contract that we had previously engaged in where I did the work and you paid me is now null and void. Think about it in a very legal kind of sense. Because really what you're doing when you quit your job is you're saying, I'm tearing up this contract and I have decided to move on. The second thing that you want to do is give plenty of notice. Now, depending on your situation, depending on what's going on, you might feel if it's a company that you really hate, you might want to quit and just say, today is my last day. Depending on where you are in the world, I know in Europe, they typically have a longer leave time. So if you put in your notice, maybe you have 2 months or 3 months where you say, okay, I'm going to be done in 3 months. In the US, it's very standard to say 2 weeks. So you put in your notice, 2 weeks is my last day. If it's an organization that you really don't do well in or you're not having a great time, maybe you put in your notice and that time frame is shorter than 2 weeks, but you can still say, I'm going to be here until, 1 or 2 weeks from now. With that being said, there are circumstances that you might want to quit on the spot. For example, if you've been harassed or if you've had some sort of negative physical confrontation with someone, that might be a reason to quit on the spot. There's a lot of other extreme reasons why you might want to quit on the spot, but I would say as a norm, don't leave a company abruptly because it's going to impact your career more than it might impact them. Number 3 is to actually write a resignation letter. If you've already put in your notice, that's fine. You still need to have in writing some documentation saying that you have given notice and that you're planning on leaving by X date. This is both legal for you and required by the organization. If you have not done this already, if you've only put in notice and your supervisor said, great, I'll talk to HR, not good enough. You need to put it in writing, send it via email to your supervisor and to HR so that you are the one who's providing this information. Typical things that you would put in a resignation letter is a reason for leaving, an offer of assistance during the transition period. So if you say, I'm done working here, if you need help, I'll be available until whatever the end date is. And if it's been a positive experience, you could always put in a request for a referral or a reference. Number 4, you're going to want to meet with your manager. If you've had a bad relationship with your manager, this might be a very quick conversation. I'm leaving. Here's what I'm working on. Good luck. If it's something where you've had a good working relationship with your manager, you can sit down and have a very honest conversation about here's why I'm leaving. And sometimes it's not always negative, but you can say, here's why I'm leaving. Here's where I'm going if you feel like you want to tell them where you're going. And you can give them a kind of a working plan of here's what I've been doing. Here's what you guys need to take over when I leave. And here's who I can assign it to. Not always required for you to figure that out. Oftentimes your supervisor is going to be the one in charge of figuring it out. If you've had a good working relationship with your supervisor, it's nice for you to do that. If you've had a bad working relationship with your supervisor, I would say let them figure it out. And the last thing, number 5, is to say goodbye in some form. This could be an email to your coworkers, it could be a text, it could be a conversation in the office. Whether you like them or you don't, you want to make sure that you have some sort of communication or some sort of farewell to make sure that your coworkers are aware of how everything happened and to leave the conversation open in the event that, let's say, they move to a different organization and you want to work there too, whatever that looks like. But to maintain positive relationships, you want to make sure that you have those conversations with your coworkers in whatever capacity. And what you'll probably see is your organization will probably say something to the effect of, don't tell people that you're leaving or don't share this information externally. Do whatever you want. It's not something that your organization is going to be able to control what you're doing and who you're talking to at all elements. And if you're in the process of finding a new job, check out this video about how to impress a recruiter if you are interviewing. And with that, I will see you on the next one.